If there was an addiction Olympics, I'd have got a platinum medal. If addiction were a job, I'd have made $1 trillion. My name is Joseph Truax. Part of my mentality is that I try to be the best at whatever I do. Being an addict was no different. I've done so many drugs, so many ways. Without using needles, I know how to get the highest off of every drug I've done. I never shot up or did heroin, but I know all about them. I started using drugs when I was 13 and didn't stop until I was 36. That is 23 years of addiction. I never took responsibility for anything I did during that entire time. I started using dope as a kid and stopped using dope, still a kid. Imagine how hard it is to finally grow up at 36 years old. And I have 7 felonies too. Add that to the equation. Criminals come in 2 types, reactive and proactive. Reactives get caught in bad situations. Proactives intentionally create bad situations. For the most part, I was a reactive criminal. I proactively planned only a few crimes, and those were to keep me alive. I went to jail 28 times and prison twice. I was locked up for a total of 7 years. Finally, I just got to a point where I was like, man, this is not working. I gotta do something different. What could I do though? I was stuck with my past. Think about it. I mean, really, how would you make it without credit? Or being capped at 12 bucks an hour? I mean, sure, yeah, you can make it like that. I'm not saying that you can't. What I'm saying is that's not living. That's just existing. Now, I didn't ask for that life, but it was my choice to stay in it. I'm really fortunate though, too. For real. Most people that choose that life, they never leave it. They don't even try to leave it. So many just give up. That's what I'm trying to prevent. Kids from ever knowing how that feels. Despair. I'm just going to give you a quick summary of my life real fast so you can understand where I came from. It was all bad from the beginning. My parents walked out on me twice, when I was 5 and when I was 7. Then at 11 and 14, they just stopped caring about me. I threatened suicide at 12 and got thrown in a psych ward. The cops came and got me at school in front of everyone. When I was 14, I went to juvie for 11 months for fighting with my perverted, abusive stepdad. The state of Indiana says I'm crazy. Dual diagnosis, ADHD, BPD, PTSD, anxiety, short-term memory problems, just a gang of stuff. I've been on like 20 different meds. As a kid, I wore glasses, had a mullet, and when I was 7, I hit myself in the face with a baseball bat and busted my 2 front teeth out. Imagine how kids treated me then, a goofy-looking sped. Y'all already know, I've been in like 60 different fights. I started legally working when I was 13. Working for someone and being a sped, they do not go hand in hand. I hate working for people. Out of the 65 jobs I've had in my life, only a few I've liked. I probably could have moved up, but drugs and such. I started smoking squares when I was 13, went to foster care when I was 15, then Job Corps when I was 16. That's where I got my GED. That's where I also lost my virginity, started drinking, started smoking weed, huffing Freon, and popping pills. Quick note for y'all. Do not send your kids to Job Corps. It sounds good on paper, but think about it. What good can possibly come out of mixing 800 high-risk 16 to 24-year-olds together? There's only like 30 adults to watch them all. Y'all know a 24-year-old don't have no business being around a 16-year-old. Kids get worse at Job Corps. I'm just saying. Anyway, I turned 17 and went to the Army. As soon as I got done with basic, though, they got rid of me. It was nuts. So I went back to Michigan and got an apartment. I turned 18 and started doing coke. Then I started smoking crack. It didn't take but a couple months of that and I was homeless. Ain't really no homeless shelters in Michigan. It's too cold for them. You go homeless, you get out of Michigan. Winter came and I didn't know what to do. That's when I had sex with a guy for the first time. A predator. For a place to sleep. I didn't want that though. I got desperate and stole a running car from a gas station. It broke down in Indiana, so I stole another one. The police chased me this time though. I almost got away, but then they found me again. I drove that car into a home going 90 miles an hour without a seatbelt on, and I didn't get hurt at all. That was my first felony. I got to jail and met my mortal enemy. He jumped me and busted my skull and my kneecap. Also because of him, I was in prison from 19 to 22. I didn't want to be, but I was his getaway driver. Y'all, I was scared to death of this guy. As soon as I got out of prison though, 11 days out, I met my ex-wife, this gold-hungry little black woman with 3 daughters. We was together for 5 years. We got married when I was 23, and by 26 we were divorced. While we was together though, I started going to college for culinary. I was 25 then. I went for free because, like I said before, the state of Indiana, they labeled me disabled. I really almost got my associate's degree though. 6 classes left and they terminated my student aid because I took too long to graduate. I went to jail a couple times and withdrew from math and English a few times. You only get 3 years to get your associates when you ain't paying for it yourself. I even had a 3.71 GPA. I got my driver's license for the first time when I was 25 too. While separated before my divorce, I met another woman. She actually paid for my divorce. She hated my ex-wife. Her and I moved in together, and later that year is when I got kicked out of college. I became a delivery driver then and made fantastic money. That's when I started smoking a lot of crack. She moved back home to her parents, and I moved in with this Pakistani taxi driver. He didn't mind that I smoked crack, but she did. We made it about 2 years together. I started Greater Minds LLC in 2010 as a crackhead. I then started two other companies over the next couple years also as a crackhead. I raised a total of 30 grand from investors. I just couldn't succeed. Not because of drugs, I just didn't have an education in business. Everything I learned was at the expense of others. Heck though, I'm pretty sure that in 2014, I was moments away from success. I designed an anti-cyberbullying campaign, and that's when life really fell apart though. I met the mother of my son when I was 29. He was born in 2013. My daughter from another woman died at 8 days old. That happened 5 months before my son was born. That, coupled with the hate that I had for the mother of my son, I just gave up. I was 31 when I used meth for the first time. Everything you've heard so far is like 5% of what's happened to me in my life. When meth happened, it was like 10 times more happened over the next 2.5 years than the combined total of my entire life before. I had reckless sex with so many people then, both for drugs and for money. I was on Backpage getting paid. I even came up with a plan to make $1 million in 7 days on Backpage. It was legit. We was just about ready to start it too. Then I made an illegal lane change in front of a cop and he hit me with the blue light. I had a felony warrant for running from work release and we had 10 grams of meth in the car. I went on high-speed pursuit with my 3-year-old little boy, my little boy in the back seat. I snapped back to reality about 3 blocks in though, and pulled over, jumped out, ran, jumped over a fence and broke my arm, jumped on top of a garage, fell off the garage, and then just laid there until the police got to me. That was in 2016. I was 33 when I went to prison again. 40 days in, meth came into the jail. I got high, then decided to change. I made a conscious effort to become good. I was facing 12 years in prison then. I didn't have a single doubt in my mind that I was about to do 12 years either. But if I was going to do 12 years, I was going to be as good as possible the entire time. Somehow, though, I ended up only doing 15 months. I couldn't believe it, y'all. When I walked out of prison at the end of 2017, I was 98% a new man. I started working on this show then, and a year later, I met the woman of my dreams. We should be married shortly. From the end of 2017 till the end of 2019, all was mostly great, but meth was still on my mind, even though I hadn't gotten high in 3 years. That's what it does. I just knew that the entire time that as soon as I got off probation, I was going to get high one last time. I was out here doing my best, but I didn't willingly quit meth. Meth was taken from me. That's how it makes you think. It's like an abusive, blackmailing spouse. You got to do what they say. I got off of probation a year early, and the next day, I relapsed. I actually made a plan to relapse, to get high for a weekend, and then quit and be done forever. And I followed my plan to a T. When the dope was gone, I said goodbye forever, and 8 days later, I got high again. And then again, and again, and again, and again. The old me that I put away came right back like it never left. This time, it was way worse though. Dope was only $200 an ounce instead of $225 for an 8-ball like it was before. For 4 months, I went hard. I mean, the hardest. 2 guys even tried to kill me with a hatchet and a knife. Straight up. I'm in therapy for it. My girl, though, she stayed through it all. I got so close to losing her. So close. She knew I really wanted to be sober, but I just couldn't do rehab. I didn't want to be around a bunch of people that were only there because the courts made them be. I finally got the chance to get sober, though. The timing was perfect. My dad, I love you, Dad. Thank you so much for believing that I really wanted sobriety. And baby, I owe you the world. Love you. He put me up in a camper next to his house. I had COVID-19 then, so I had to quarantine. That just made quitting meth even easier. 14 days later, I was done with dope forever. That term, once an addict, always an addict, that's a lie. That's a mentality designed to keep you down. I ain't an addict no more. I ain't counted a single day of sobriety. I just live. I got that final 2% back. I'm 100% now. I'm good. Many of those things were completely avoidable. Oftentimes, we can't choose our circumstances in life, but we can almost always choose how to react to our circumstances. Of course, the right reaction is not always the easy one. Peer pressure, abuse of all types, poverty, as well as a plethora of other variables tend to make it more difficult to control ourselves in critical moments when we really need to have self-control. Like so many others, I made wrong choices early in life, and those choices led me to a new path in life. On that path, the people are not your friends, and the love that you get is simply hate in disguise. On that path, the choices come in two flavors, bad and worse. There is no life on that path. There is only survival. Instead of listening to wise advice as a child, I instead decided to do just as immature people do, whatever I wanted. My excuse was that I stopped trusting people because the ones I was supposed to be able to trust abandoned me, while having the traditional thought of, those things will never happen to me. If I had 1/100th of the info that I have now, had known that I would lose all control and be falling endlessly like I did, I might never have done all that I did. Or maybe I still would have, who knows. But no one ever told me that what I lived, I would live. The system only said, don't do drugs, or this is your brain on drugs, or just say no. I feel like those programs were simply fulfillment efforts for government grants. So I want to give our children everything I, as well as so many others, never had. Every result from every choice that I ever made. This way, they will have expectations of what may occur if they decide to walk the path of survival instead of the path of life. I want to give them the complete, no-holds-barred truth so there is no more wondering, no more guesswork. This is happening. I have to try. When it's all said and done, those who want to will know me as well as I know me intimately. Of course that's terrifying to me, but like they say, if I save one person, then I did my job. They also say to love your neighbor, right? Well, my way of showing love is by sacrificing myself in our children's behalf. It's about to get realer than you have ever imagined. It's time to do things differently and hopefully save some lives. I hope you're with me on this. It does take a village. Make sure you watch the next video. Patreon is critical to this. Thank you.